Well, let me put it to you this way here. I know what many of you are probably thinking right out of the gate. So we'll get to it. But first and foremost, Big Sills, welcome aboard on this Football Monday. Great weekend. Watch my kid graduate, get her degree. It was really awesome watching her. Had a fantastic time. She plays for the national championship in rugby on Sunday. Incredible time of her life, and we're proud to be part of it. So, Dee, I know you watch. Congratulations to you, sweetheart. I also watched the draft. She watched it with me. She was like, Dad, how do you know these guys are good? I said, you won't for 3 years. Well, it's like picking a stock, honey. It's like picking a stock. You just don't know what the stock is going to do. Go up or down. You may get a sleeper stock. One stock may grow a little slower than the other. You have no idea. The draft is clearly an investment on what a player did and not what a player is going to do. That's the problem that you have with fans. Big Sills loved what Dallas did in the draft. I actually think Dallas did have a good draft. I liked what they did in the draft. So you have no idea what the future holds. These men are paid for their past and what they did in college. So to sit here and go, wow, we got a great, you have no idea how that will translate to the next level. Zero, including me. Including me. That's right, Mike. No team knows. But what you do is you look at certain intangibles. Where they're coached, what conference they're in, who they play against. You know, I saw Bob Brown saying something right there like this. Bob Brown doesn't understand college football today. Being at a small school, it's not like it was 5 years ago before nil. Nobody stays at small schools. Nobody. College football has forever been eradicated because of nil. You're not finding Larry Allen at Simona State. You know why? Larry's not going to sit out and have to sit out and have a redshirt year and not play. Today, you get a chance to leave a school and go and play immediately. That's the difference. And you're getting paid enormous money. Larry Allen is not staying at Simona State. I hope Guyton puts missing on his ass. I like it, 304. So saying that, Bob, is not true. There was only one kid in the first 3 rounds that was drafted from a non-Power 5. And that's the guy that the Eagles got. It's not true. It's just not true any longer. Kids go to bigger programs. You don't, when you're an NFL prospect, you don't go from Alabama to Houston Catholic. If you're good, you grade up, get better coaching, better opponents, all of that. College football is not what it was 4 years ago even. So let's get into the draft. First and foremost, I would like to do this. I would like to address the Jeremiah Trotter draft pick. And before I address the Trotter draft pick as a player, let's do it with the feel-good story. Okay? Great. It's a wonderful opportunity for a heritage pick and a generation of Trotters. It must be wonderful to see your son drafted. To see your son drafted at the place where you had great success, if you're Jeremiah Trotter Sr., must have been a wonderful moment for the family. You see, these are two separate things. This has got nothing to do with football, what I'm talking about here. It's a great story. It's a feel-good story. We told you we thought he was the 3rd or 4th round guy. and he went in the 5th. Okay. I mean, it's not really a big pick. It's not really a needle mover pick. I mean, at a position where they needed to address and they still haven't. It's really a nothing burger. He's not horrible. He's not great, but he has great knowledge. Now, let me go into the player. Oh, do I think that he is going to benefit from his dad's knowledge and having his dad prepare him for the league, what's next, what's not? Absolutely. His knowledge of the game, what his dad can tell him, Vic Fangio on his best day couldn't tell him. And it really, and absolutely, he didn't have a very good beginning of the season last year. I thought he played better towards the end of the year. I thought 2 years ago he was really good. The year in the middle, I didn't think he was very good. He was kind of slow. And he's smaller than Nakobe Dean, if you look at him. The Philadelphia Eagles have the smallest linebacking core in the National Football League. They're tiny guys. And without a question, the Eagles do not value that position at all. And it was evident in free agency, and now it's evident in the draft. They could care less about that position. I mean, like I said, I'm not up or down on the Trotter pick. He's a non-factor, though. But at the end of the day, I mean, we'll find out in a couple of years if the kid can play. As of right now, Nakobe Dean's your starter. And some would go, well, Sills, did you really think he would start now? Well, the Eagles on the depth chart that I got this morning from Clint Hurt already has Quinnon Mitchell in as a starting cornerback over James Bradbury. If they thought so highly of him, wouldn't they put him in a starting lineup, Trotter? No. So that's we'll get. I wrote down all my assessments on the picks, and here they are. Quinnon Mitchell, first round, 22nd pick, probably the best corner in the draft. Cooper DeJean, now again, second round, 40th pick. Did they get the best player in the second round? Probably. I'll tell you something about this kid, too. You know, if you really do your due diligence on him, scored 28 points a game in basketball, had like 8,000 rushing yards. This guy was kind of like a big-time sports guy. This guy is like some sort of like legendary guy from where he's from, where he put up all these athletic accolades. And personally, when you start looking at it, and then all of a sudden, too, you get these dumbass Philly media guys. Hey, do you think you get lesser opportunity because you're white? That's like asking a quarterback who's black, hey, do you think you didn't get an opportunity because you were, black, that teams really passed on you because you were black and you're a black quarterback? What's the difference being asked a racist question like that if you're white or black? Those are non-factor questions. It just has no place for that. This is a kid's really great moment. It's a high mark moment in his life, and it's dumb. It has no bearing on anything in life. I mean, I thought it was an insulting question to ask him that. What's the point? Because you're white? I mean, that's right. Big pickin'. What a question to ask a kid on draft day. I mean, what a question to ask him. Hey, do you think you got lesser opportunities from some of these other teams because you're a white corner? Hey, do you think you got any lesser of an opportunity because you're a black quarterback? It's the same question. It's a racist question. I don't know, man. But the more you do your homework on him, the more you love the fact that he is an athlete. We'll get into him. The third pick, 94, Jalyx Hunt, OLB, Houston Christian. I don't get it. I don't know what that is. No idea. Never heard of the kid. He's a project. Yeah, okay, sure. Houston Christian. Yeah, let me know. I mean, is it Division One or is it Division One AA? You got rid of Hassan Reddick and you signed this guy and you got Nolan Smith in your starting lineup. Where are you getting your pass rush from? Bryce Huff and who? This is a dumb pick. Okay. However, that's just, I mean, I would have went somewhere else and got an outside linebacker, an edge rusher. Just me. Not some project that might be good in 4 years. You need somebody to get to the quarterback this year. I just didn't understand the pick. Hey, he may pan out. I mean, he may pan out to be something, but the majority, I mean, like where did Khalil Mack go to school? Where did he go to? Buffalo, right? University of Buffalo. I thought that was an odd pick, but again, college football was different then. So, and Peyton Wilson, yeah, Senor. I thought the Steelers got a steal there with that pick too. And so, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I think Khalil Mack went to the University of Buffalo. And, but again, like I said, that's back in the day. I know Mac's not a Power 5 school, my friend. I understand that. I know who the Power 5s are. I vote on all the top 25 teams in college football, and I vote on all the All-American teams, Bob. I know college football more than anybody in Philly. You guys don't like college football. Don't pretend to do it on a Monday. I'm not ripping you, Bob. I'm just saying. It's not like you sit here. But you might, Bob, because, okay, Arnold's the best corner in the draft. That was my guy. But okay, hey, let's continue. Will Shipley, running back, Clemson, 4th pick, 127. Behind that old line, I don't know. I mean, one thing Shipley does very well, he's good at pass protection. And I think he's kind of a cheap man's version of McCaffrey. Catch the ball, run, block. I think that's the kind of running back from now on you're going to see drafted in the National Football League. You're not going to see these big bruising backs any longer. You're going to see people like Will Shipley. He had a really good Clemson career. Okay? And now you put Barkley, Kenny Gainwell, and him. It's not horrible. Last year was horrible. This year's not horrible. Okay? Penny, Gainwell, and DeAndre Swift. The only running back that was worth a shit last year was Swift. Now you got some guys here with Gainwell. They have a love affair with that guy for whatever reason. I think Shipley could be used in a good role. But then again, Jalen doesn't throw to backs. They don't have a screen game. Since when do the Eagles have a screen game to utilize both Barkley and Shipley? I mean, since when? Anais Smith, wide receiver, A&M. Dumbo Fisher does a really great job at recruiting skilled people at College Station when he was the head coach. Okay? He did a good job. I mean, for them not to win, it was coaching, not his talent evaluation. He knows skilled people. So this kid could be a slot receiver. Okay? I mean, I'm going to get to where I think this draft is. And I'm going to break it down here in a minute for you. And then you get Trotter in the 5th pick. Once again, the 155th pick, sure. You want to have a feel-good story, Howie? No problem. You did this for the fans. You did this for the city. You did this for the organization. You did this for the legacy of the team. Okay, he's not horrible. He's not horrible. The only pick that I question is that 3rd round pick. I have no idea what that is. and why such a giant off the reservation deal. In theory, in my opinion, you got 2 players in this draft out of your 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. And by the way, he stockpiled draft picks for next year. Okay. You got 2 good-looking players here. The other 4, we'll see. We'll see. Okay, so we'll get into the evaluation here, and I'll give you my takeaways here. By the way, Xander, Gary Cobb was good for 4:30. We'll have Farzi on at 3:30. So the Big Sills takeaway from the 2024 draft. Let's recap on Quinnon Mitchell. 6 feet, 195, 433. 433 and a 40, I mean. Possesses great flexibility, great strength. If you look at him and you see him standing next to, say, Kenny Gainwell, he's bigger. He's built like a running back, okay? He's built like a running back. He's a big dude. He's kind of built like Darrelle Revis. Hits like a safety. That's got to be one of the things that intrigued them about him. Third, how he got beat by Cincinnati, took Michigan guard, and Ravens took Addis Isaac. Penn State, the 4th. Pitt took the guard. The rest of the draft was good. Again, like I said, I think you got 2 players that could possibly play and be an impact this year. The rest of them are all projects. I don't really see anything on there that stands out. I see the top 2. But then again, 2 out of 6. Is that horrible? I mean, what's the percentage of that? If 2 guys are an impact, it'll be 2 guys that you've had an impact that in the last 2 years you've had nobody that has been really an impact. So at the end of the day, 2 out of 6 is not horrible. What is that, Xander? 35%? You got right? I mean, 2 out of 6? That's not horrible. 40% of your draft you get right? I mean, if you get 40% of your draft, any team, you're going to be happy with that. I'm not 33%. Joe, that's not horrible, man. 2 out of 6, it's not horrible. That A&M wide receiver can beat out Campbell for wide receiver 3, decent slot. Yeah, because you know what he does? He lined up in that Dumbo Fisher offense, and he lined up in that slot down there. It's clearly why they drafted him. Let me finish up here with Quinnon Mitchell. We talked about this on Friday a little bit. I'm just recapping. Senior Bowl, he was really great in the Senior Bowl, matching up against those wide receivers that he had to play against at the Senior Bowl. I thought he was great. By the way, I'll get to all your takes here in a minute, but he was really good. And Nagy said that he was spectacular at the Senior Bowl. Now, he does get lost in coverage, and he can get knocked off his routes. That was one of the key things that his evaluation was, but he's got great closing speed, which means this. When you got great closing speed, you can make up for your mistakes. You can do that in college, but you can't do that in the pros because these wide receivers are absolutely sensational. Now, let me say something else here that's going to be a benefit that you're going to get here with Quinnon Mitchell and with with Cooper DeJean. This is what you're going to get. You got Devontae Smith and you got A.J. Brown. They're going to be going against these guys every single day in practice. Remember what I told you about when you play at Alabama or you play at Clemson or you play at Ohio State? You are going against the elite people in the country every day, not just on Saturdays. So you're going to be going against all these guys, okay? Stevens, he's built like Revis. Quinnon Mitchell. He's built like Revis. So you're playing against Devontae, watching him running pro routes and lining up against A.J. Brown, and then trying to cover somebody like Saquon Barkley out of the backfield. That is going to make you better. Having elite players like that are going to help all the young, Keely Ringo, all them dudes. Help every one of those guys on a day-to-day basis. That comes down to coaching now. Are these coaches going to have OTAs and mini camps that are going to get these guys better? Are they going to do that, or are they just going to walk themselves into a regular season not having these guys prepared? That will be my question. Got to practice harder. They've added another OTA to the mix. You got to practice harder. Get these guys ready. Once again, sitting here on a Monday is asinine to sit here and say you've addressed anything except need. College kids covering A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith is a joke. Stop pretending. Take a breath. Calm down. The Quinnon Mitchell pick. Again, Toledo didn't play against anybody. Marvin Harrison Jr., great. Had a good game against him. Didn't have to really line up against anybody until he got to the Senior Bowl. Okay? Flexing, right. Remember something. You guys are talking about things they have done, not have did. You're nothing. You have no context. You have no context on what they'll look like. You're going, and I'm going off of what they did in college. And if it will translate to the NFL, you guys are talking fantasy football. And so is everyone in Philly. My God almighty. If you tune on any show, it's ridiculous to sit here on April 29th and talking about people who don't even own helmets yet. You've got to be the biggest idiots on the planet. I mean, control yourselves. We got our secondary fix. No, you don't. You've addressed it. Okay? Now let's get to the rest of the picks. Cooper DeJean. I'd put DB here. I got a feeling they're going to put him at safety. I think they're going to play him in the slot. I think you're going to see him line up in that Gardner Johnson's position. 6'1.5", 203. Could be great in special teams. He's a muscular guy. He's a big dude. Smart. Not a truly flexible athlete back there. He's not like Quinnon Mitchell. He's not the flexible guy, the Gumby guy that you see with Mitchell. When Mitchell plays in the secondary and you watch him and you see him play, we're going to do that too, senor. We're going to do that. We're going to cover that. Okay, we're going to cover that, who I think where they are right now. We'll do that here in a minute. He's not as flexible as you need in the secondary. So what does that mean? I could see him more as a safety, like in a safety spot. Okay, he's a big dude. He's a big dude. Now, again, let's see what they do when they get on the field against NFL wide receivers. Little different than playing against a guy from Ohio University and for Cooper DeJean playing against a guy from Northwestern. Let's see how they look in a Vic Fangio defense before you start calling them all pro. Fair enough? All right. Smart, could put him in punt return too, probably. My takeaway on him, we'll see. Do I think he's a good player? I do. The more you watch him, the more you read about him, the more you like of his background. He's a football savant. I like that too, Steve. Cooper has got great instinct. I think that's true. When you watch him on film, you could see him cheating. You could see him cheating over to the play side. He's pretty smart. And when you see that, and hey, Steve, when you see that, that means he does a lot of studying. And that means he does a lot of studying when it comes to tendencies. That's good. I watched him at Iowa, and the majority of the time, he always cheated play side. And I was like, okay, there's something there. Overall, the pick at 40, was he the best player taken at that spot? Absolutely. So, how can you berate the pick? You can't. There's no chance in hell at taking Quinnon Mitchell, who was the 7th best player on the draft board that I had, and say 22, you got a good player. And then you got a player that I had at 18, you got him with the 40th pick in the second round. Outstanding. That is under drafting. That's what you're looking for. Okay? That's correct. What Xander just said. Tremendous value in the first 2 picks. This is, again, even if they fail, you went, 95% of the NFL teams had Cooper DeJean and Quinnon Mitchell ranked in the top 15, the top 20. And you got them at 22 and 40. I don't know, man. I'd be very happy with that. I'd be very happy with where I took those 2 guys. And, I'll give it to Howie on this. Because of Bo Nix and J.J. McCarthy and the old linemen, the way they stockpiled in the top end of the draft, Howie remained patient. And instead of getting excited and going and getting excited, he remained with poise. I think Howie in the first 2 picks, outstanding. Okay, outstanding. Value picks. And look at this. Let's take a look at the need chart for the Eagles. As a matter of fact, let's take a look at their draft here and go like this. Here's the Eagle cornerback. Only got 2 of them, and the best at those spots in the draft. Linebacker. Hey, whatever I think of Jeremiah Trotter, they addressed it. Safety. I think DeJean can address that position. OT. They went out and signed the former first rounder from the Jets, who we'll talk about. Okay? Look what they did on draft weekend. They didn't get the guy they wanted in the draft in the O-line. So you go get Becton. Get a wide receiver, 5th pick, slot. Need. Tight end, they addressed that in free agency. So all in all, if you look at Roseman's offseason so far, they've addressed positional needs. Now, what I think of the players is a crapshoot, as you also. Okay? So let me get to Jalyx Hunt, Houston Christian. I have no idea where that is. I I have zero idea who this dude is. Okay. That doesn't mean because I don't know who he is and I've never heard of him and nobody in their right mind would draft a kid out of Houston Christian in the 3rd round. They must know something because even they said it. He's a future pick. He's a future what? You need draft guys who can rush the passer today, not in 4 years. I don't get the pick, okay? But it's April 29th, and it's a need. So, okay, we shall see. He will be a non-factor. Will Shipley, Clemson, 4th pick, 127. Not a horrible pick. Still in the premium guy. I think he's great in pass probe. You watch him when he's down there pass blocking for the quarterbacks that played at Clemson. I think he reminds me of McCaffrey. He was all ACC. I know some people don't like the pick. I don't know if Xander's enamored with the pick. I actually like this pick because you know why? He can do more than one thing. Now the question will be, can the quarterback do more than one thing? Just finding Devontae and AJ, you now have Barkley and Shipley. These guys can help your football team move the sticks. Both of these guys can catch the ball, Barkley and Shipley. Both of them are pretty decent in pass probe, something Kenny Gainwell stinks at. I personally think, I'm with you, Barb, I think Shipley's going to help them if Jalen Hurts and Kellen Moore can get him somehow into the offense. I think he can help. Now, again, they don't have an intermediate passing game. It's really almost non-existent. Between the 3rd wide receiver and the pass catching out of the running backs is atrocious in that pass offense. That's got to get better. Shipley reminds me of Christian McCaffrey. I'm not saying he's in that, but he's got the same skill set. Can catch, can run, can block, and he's smart. I actually, believe it or not, I actually like the pick. And you needed a running back. And you know what? Smiley goes, Flexen goes, I don't believe in Shipley, but you believe in Jalyx Hunt, who plays against nobody? Okay, Flex. Okay, all right. There's some people. Well, you know what, guys? If some of you don't like the pick, that's why Shipley went in the 4th round. That's why Shipley went in the 4th round, because some do and some don't. You see, the higher you're selected, there's more of a consensus on you and what impact you'll have on a team. Okay, Flex. Hey, Flexen. Sills, Hunt was a Vic move. So you get rid of Hassan Reddick, that being a Vic Fangio move, and you sign a guy and you put Nolan Smith in one of your rushers to replace Hassan Reddick and Jalyx Hunt. Jesus criminy, man. I mean, okay, we'll see. It's not the player, it's the quarterback. He doesn't throw the running. But that's right. That's right, Xander. And Xander's like, Sills, it's not him, Shipley. Quarterback doesn't find these guys. That's what I just said. They've got to be able to create an intermediate passing game and get some of them footballs to the running backs. Aeneas Smith, wide receiver, A&M, slot receiver, had 0 numbers at Texas A&M. 0 numbers. 0 numbers. Here is a prime example of a guy that Howie saw at the combines, 5th pick, 152, and he was a workout warrior. He has 0 production at A&M. So, again, how do you give a guy a grade like this when he's not turned out to do anything when he was at A&M? I mean, zero numbers in college football. In today's college football, he had no numbers. Zero to put anything behind. You don't even know what you're looking at unless you went to the combines and you saw the guy work out. So he's a Gold's Gym guy. Hunt first two steps are extremely violent and fast. Against who? And his first hand placement is perfect for setting up what technically used to be a pass rush. Rewatch the one-on-ones at the Senior Bowl and see how much helmet and almost concussions OTs with speed. James. Okay. Guy had a great week at the Senior Bowl. Had a great combine. I don't even know if he was at the combines. I don't remember him. And I cover over 300 college kids a year, and I never heard of him. That doesn't mean anything, though, because I haven't heard of him. I just, no, that doesn't mean anything. We'll see. The Eagles are even saying this, but he's a project. It's not just me. The Eagles are calling him a project. Steve goes, Smith is a slot receiver. He's a baller. Where do you get that from, Steve? Where'd you get those numbers from? He had no numbers at A&M. He was like the third receiver at A&M. He was like the third receiver on a shitty offense at Texas A&M. Baller? Where did you get that from? He didn't ball in college. 16 touchdowns in 3 years. Let's take a look at that in his production. In today's college football, AINIAS Smith, Texas A&M. He's a young kid. You know what, too? That's right. I forgot they used him at running back. He's kind of like Debo a little bit. Okay? They're looking at him like Debo. Makes sense now. He still did not replace Brandon Graham. Death row. Correct. They have not replaced that. You know what? Who said that? Hey, I'm awake. Are you? I'm all right with this. $700 receiving yards, $825 in punt return, 17 catches for 20 or more yards. He's an all-around guy. Okay. I'm better on the pick. They could use him like Debo. They could use him like Debo. Near stats because we watch A&M always with 1-2 going there. He's a 5'9" Aggie version of Edelman and Welker. I'll send another super in a second. I'll give you into specifics. He'll be a star. Hey, James, I'll tell you what, man. If they're looking at him like a Debo Samuel, where they'll put him on punt return, they'll put him in the slot, they'll put him in the backfield, and they'll play him around like that, put him in the 3-hole too. Okay. All right. Jeremiah Trotter. The Eagles wanted this pick. The owner wanted this pick more than anything, I think. You know what? I'm going to make a point to you guys here that somebody told me something. What do you think the percentage was of players drafted in the NFL in this last weekend that were offense? What do you think? Coach Johnson told me this morning. What do you think the number was and how many offensive players were taken on a percentage-wise in this draft? Sam says 65%. 70. I'll say 45. Bob says 65. Joe, 45. 75% of the players, like 74.6% of the players that were taken in this past draft were offensive players. Think about that. The first defensive football player wasn't taken until the 14th pick. 74% of the players that were selected in the draft were offense. It's not an Eagle thing that I've been harping on. It's a league thing. They don't want you to play defense. They want you to play somewhat defense. 74.6% of the players selected in the NFL draft for 2024 were offensive dudes. That tells you all you need to know here. Now my grade for the Eagles 2024 draft. I was going to say C+, but I got talked into this Smith kid. He's intriguing. The third round pick, I think is, we'll see. I don't get it. And I'm not a fan of it, especially in today's college football. And here's the slot. 82% of the wideout on passes without screens. In the last 5 drafts, and rack yards after push him 90 percentile. He's akin to a Welker and Edelman in finding zones and tempo in routes for field to clear before going all in on catch. He runs complicated passing schemes too, does Dumbo Fisher. So for him to be able to be a player like that, James, that was used in so many different forms, running the ball, special teams, catching, slot, YZ, for him to be doing all that tells you that he understands the offensive game plan and that you could plug him in anywhere. And by the way, a guy like that when there's an injury, I mean, late in the year, you put him anywhere. He's like a Swiss Army knife. Okay? I would say this to you. I would give this thing a B-. Now, I'm a little harder grader because, again, I think there's 2 dudes in this draft that, here, the first and second round picks, total value, total need, everything you did was exactly correct. You got the best player available at each pick, and you didn't panic and you didn't do anything crazy here. Those 2 guys, that's great. That's great. The Jalyx Hunter pick, not for me. I have no interest in that pick. The Shipley pick, I actually am okay with. Oh, I think he's another versatile kid. Can help your football team. The Smith kid, another versatile guy. Play in the slot. They're still looking for a slot receiver. And the Trotter pick, you add to the linebacking core another small dude. All right. Congratulations to the dad and the family. I think it's a great story. Hey, Sills, what did you think of the guys? 6'7", 6'8" wide receiver, Johnny Wilson. I'll tell you this, too. Hey, fantastic. There were so many guys in that draft that got pushed down in the draft because of the O-linemen and because of the quarterbacks. Bo Nix. Here, get this. So you draft Bo Nix over Cooper DeJean. What's Denver thinking? What's Denver thinking? Rick goes negative. How am I negative? I gave you an honest assessment of a draft. Instead of telling me what you did. And I think I gave you a really great review. You addressed all your needs, all the position. You went after positions of need. You got value at just about every pick. What the hell else do you want on April 29th, guy? That they're all pros? You see a dumbass like that? Negative? What do you mean negative? What do you want me to say? They're all pro? They don't even own a helmet. This guy wants me to call these guys all pro. They don't even have a locker yet. And this guy's like negative. Negative? How? A B-. Yeah, because that third round pick I don't see it. James, just watch Bama. He knew he was getting smashed like Edelman in the Super Bowl. In the Super Bowl catch, and then turned into a plus 25 after even. He's also a kick and punt returner. I saw that. And like Welker and Amendola, just let speed because 5'9", 190, but harder to tackle. Those quick twitch guys, James, thank you very much, James. Those quick twitch guys are hard to get on the ground. You don't really have to have 4.4 speed. Okay? You said you didn't like Mitchell, even though was ranked the number 1 corner. Christopher, I said I did. Once again, you listen to stupid shit. I'm not watching the tape on the Christian League for Houston Christian. No, I'm not interested in horseshit competition. I'm not interested in that. Okay? I never said that about Quinton Mitchell. I said verbatim, I didn't like where he played in the MAC. That's not a Power 5 conference. He doesn't line up against quality guys in practice, nor does he on Saturdays. That's what I said. I ranked him 7th. If I thought very little of him, I said I like the Bama guy more. I do. He played against Devontae Smith. He played against all the great receivers that were at Alabama every weekend. He played against the SEC receivers every weekend. He played against Neighbors. He played against Brian Thomas. He played against all these top flight wideouts. Quinnon Mitchell didn't. Quinnon Mitchell didn't. That Senor is right. Who the F takes Jalyx Hunt over Peyton Wilson? Nobody does. It's a stupid pick. However, it's April 29th. I am not going to do that. I don't like where they went off the reservation to a program that I barely knew existed. In today's college football, that's not a pick. That's a project. It's a project. Okay? It's a project. So, let's take a look at the Eagles now and their depth chart. So, get this. You're going to drop a kid. See what a guy says here? Look what a guy over here says. You're going to drop him in coverage. You're going to drop a guy from Houston Christian in coverage against George Kittle. I mean, really? You're going to drop him in coverage against the tight end from the Browns, from Houston Christian. You're going to drop him in coverage versus the tight end from Baltimore, from Houston Christian. Move the goalpost? No. I said, it's April 29th. We'll see. I'm not drafting a kid from the Catholic League of college football. No, thank you. No interest in it. Let's move on. Don't make a pick. And don't start talking about a player right now that you think is great and it's a great pick. And you don't even know where the fuck the school's located in Houston. I had to look it up. You've never heard of the school until they took him. You never heard of the player until they took him. Richard Sherman went to Stanford. He went to Stanford. He didn't go to Houston Christian. Like, let me see. Let's do this. Let's put this in proper perspective before we move on. Houston Christian schedule 2023. Okay, they played a team by the name of Chenier, and they beat them. Houston Christian football 2023 schedule. They lost to McNeese State. No, they beat McNeese State. They played Western Kentucky and lost. Lamar beat them. They beat Prairie View. I mean, yeah. What were you evaluating? Let's look at the depth chart of the Eagles now. Mack went to Buffalo. Different college football, dude. Neil changes it. It's not the same. Going to a small school 6 years ago, 7 years ago, college football has erratically been changed because of Nil. Players don't stay at lower programs today. That's why when you look at the entire draft, check it out. The entire first round, this is what you're not, once again, you don't understand. The only player that was taken from a non-Power 5 was taken by the Eagles. And then they went on the reservation in the third pick and took another guy from a non-Power 5. The only team to do that shit was Philly in the first 3 rounds. Do you understand that? Nobody on the planet goes to non-Power 5 who are worth the shit. 2 players in the top 20? That's a lie too. Let's take a look at that. Name me another player outside of the top 20 players. Nobody in the top 20 was outside of Power 5. What are you talking about? The medical on Peyton Wilson is crazy. Hunt played safety as well. Vic picked for that and performed well in the Senior Bowl. Your judgment is right. Prince, it had to be the Senior Bowl stuff and the combines. Look at this guy, what he says. Brain app goes, still, schools don't determine the skill or talent. So he thinks if you go to Houston Christian and say both kids are the same in talent, let's take that guy's observation for a second here. And we'll use Jalyx Hunt. He thinks that kid, Jalyx Hunt from Houston Christian, is going to get a better position coach to teach him and teach him technique. Do you know what the coach at Houston Christian probably makes? $90,000. Do you know what the coach at Alabama makes? $3 million. You know why he makes $3 million? Because he's one of the top teachers in the country at getting the best talent out of that kid. Then the conference you play in, you're playing against elite kids every single week. Every single week. You're not playing against Perryview. You're playing against LSU. That's who you're playing against. The problem that you have with Jalyx Hunter, he doesn't play against anybody, and he gets shitty coaching. Common sense, use it. It might help you out. So don't tell me that some kid you couldn't have picked in that pick there from a different college in a Power 5 who had put some with great coaching, great competition, and you go off the reservation like that. Makes no sense to me. But it's April 29th. I'm sure some guy that played against Incarceration or whatever the hell the thing is, and Perryview, and Western Kentucky and all them places, I'm sure he's a fine player. Good night. All right. Still doesn't determine his future. My God. Can you name me a kid in this draft that went in a school like that, except from the guy in Philly? By the way, how many times has that panned out for Howie? Hunt will get 12 sacks. If I were you, Spike, I'd be praying for Bryce Huff to get 12 sacks before I'd be worrying about Jalyx Hunt getting 12 sacks. Because you got a lot of sacks to cover for Hassan Reddick's departure. If I were you, I'd be more worried about the guy you just gave $18 million to than worrying about a third-round draft choice who was taken from some nowhere school. If I were you, I'd be looking at that guy more. So if I were you, I'd concern myself about Bryce Huff. Again, Des is once again not listening. Michael Strahan would not have stayed at an HBCU school. Back in the day, he would have went to LSU or South Carolina. Why? They would have paid him more. The transfer, I'm done with that. Okay? Sills, Dean went to Georgia and the dude is a bum. You drafted a guy with a shoulder injury and you drafted an undersized linebacker. Okay? And you did the same thing with Trotter. Let's look at the offense and take a look at the offense here after free agency and also the draft. Here's what the offense looks like. Jalen Hurts, Kenny Pickett are your two QBs. Your running back room, Barkley, Gainwell, and Shipley. I like this room way better than I did the last year's room. Way better. Okay? Senor, look at Senor. NFL players, Bailey Zappi, Jarrett Stearns, and now Jalyx Hunt are three players that are NFL players in the history of the program. Good God. You might as well sign what's his name? The guy from Invincible. You might as well sign him. Some dude off the street in South Philly. Vic Pick Hunt, I'd bet from the Senior Bowl. I bet it too. I'm more up on Gabe Hall Baylor because he's more an old school defensive end / OLB. He plays 34, 4, 5 techniques. I like that too, James. I like that too. Okay. Hey, yeah, I'd rather sign Vince Papali than Jalyx Hunt. Some dude that played it. I'd rather sign a guy from Temple. Temple. Look at this. Howie said Hunt is a physical freak. Yeah, you're a physical freak in a shitty conference. Okay? Let's please move off this. I'm not going to be convinced that Houston Christian's going to produce anything that's worth shit. But we'll see. Congratulations to you. You got a guy from Houston Christian in the 3rd round. Okay. Your wide receivers, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Devontae Parker. The kid Smith could probably play all 3 of those positions the way it sounds what he did at A&M. Goddard signed a guy in free agency too to back him up. You got some depth there. Malata and Micaiah Becton. Let me say this about Becton being signed. You know why I really like this pick and this sign, and I like what he did? He looked at this as an opportunity. He was a complete bust in New York. He was an absolute complete bust in New York. 1st round bust. Terrible. Okay, but then again, the quarterback play was atrocious. Do I blame him? I don't think so. Did he not look good in positions? Yeah, but you know what I would say? I would do this. Well, how about better quarterback play? Could that have helped him? Yes. Could better running from the running backs had helped? Yes. Get this. Jason A-Train says, no, he wasn't. They fired a 1st round pick. Hey, Barb, what year was Micaiah Becton 1st round? I'd like to know. What year was that? So let's talk about little Nicky smacking Howie's ass on national television on draft night. That guy's an ass clown. Nick Sirianni is a clown. I mean, you know the guy that looks like he's out of place? So get this right here. James said this. He wasn't a bust in New York, and he was drafted in 2020 in the 1st round. And within 4 years, they move off a 1st round pick. That just shows you what James knows. That guy should be getting a 2nd deal like Landon Dickerson. So you're telling me he was in the same draft as Landon Dickerson and he went ahead of Landon Dickerson? Is that correct? Dickerson was in the 20th, right? He was in the 2020 draft, right? Dickerson didn't go to the 2nd round. This guy was a 1st round pick. And the Jets moved off him. The Eagles just gave Landon Dickerson was in the 21, right? They just gave Landon Dickerson a $20+ million deal. But wait a minute. I'm not down on this. I'm not down. I'm like this. He's coming to Jeff Stoutland. Why is he coming to Jeff Stoutland? He's coming to Jeff Stoutland to figure out what's wrong. And he wants to come on a 1-year deal. And he wants Jeff Stoutland to help him. So Micaiah Becton, in my opinion, he could have probably chose any other place, but he came to a place to save his career. Good for him. Good for him. That's exactly what you're hoping for. Okay? He could make himself a lot of money in Philly. And now you got a guy here that can be a swing tackle for you. I like it. I think it's good. Dickerson, Juergens, Tyler Steen, Lane Johnson. I would say to you this, that there are no excuses for Kellen Moore and most notably Jalen Hurts. If you don't win a lot of games and put up insane numbers with that talent, your quarterback should be fired within seconds of the season ending. There is so much pressure on him to succeed. And if he doesn't, it's not coaching. It's not head coaching. It's Jalen Hurts. And this team is built for the next guy, which is great because anybody would want that talent around him. That's right, Crowley. Jalen, The 2024 season, it's Hurts season. Good or bad. And it is on you. And if you shit the bed, personally, I don't think Kellen Moore's bringing anything to the table because he has it in his time as a coordinator in Dallas. They've won nothing. And all of a sudden now he's magically going to change Jalen Hurts into what? Dak Prescott? Okay. We shall see. Now let's go to the defensive side of the ball. By the way, I was given this morning, the depth chart. Left defensive end, Milton Williams. Brandon Graham's backing him up. Milton Williams, left defensive end. Are you sure? Are you sure? Really? Jordan Davis? I'm not opposed to this here. Playing nose. Let's see what he does. What? Moore is no good because the teams he worked for haven't won it all, really? No, because he's been fired the last 2 jobs. That's why, Slagger. His last 2 jobs, he's been fired. That's why. Not because they didn't win Super Bowls, because he's been fired at both places. Dallas and Chargers. He was fired. Okay? No. Jay goes, still hating? No, I'm telling reality here. You should temper your reactions here before you start talking about again on April 29th, all-pro draft. Okay? Chargers only fired him to get the Harbaugh. Really? So do you think if Andy Reid left, they'd fire Steve Spagnuolo in Kansas City? You fire quality coaches? Is that what you're saying? They fire quality coaches. Jalen Carter at right defensive end. Going to play him in a 5 technique versus playing him in a 3. Okay. Now here's where we get back to normal. Here's your linebacking core. Bryce Huff, Nakobe Dean, Devin White, Nolan Smith. You've absolutely done nothing to improve the worst unit in the entire league. I mean, it's undersized. It's not good. I mean, you have a hole in the middle of your defense. Dean stinks. White can't tackle. Nolan Smith is unproven. And Huff is unproven. I don't get it. I don't get it. And you sign another undersized player in Trotter, who's a project himself. I mean, in free agency and in the draft, you did not really address your linebacker position. And what you did was you addressed it with a feel-good story. It's the same dudes prior to the draft. It's clear the Eagles don't give a fuck about the linebackers, whether we like it or not. They have no interest in improving that group. They have no interest. That's why it wasn't a big deal for them to sign Jeremiah Trotter. And again, I'm not saying Trotter sucks. But when you have undersized linebackers in Nakobe Dean, hey, as a matter of fact, I wouldn't be shocked if Trotter beat him out. Dean stinks. I mean, but this is Howie. Howie has no value at linebacker. He does not care. Josh Sweat, you know where he is? It's funny you should say that. Josh Sweat is a backup to Bryce Huff. Josh Sweat could run circles around Bryce Huff. Do you know Bryce Huff last year had 10.5 sacks? In his pre 3 years, the 3 years previous, 3, 2, and 3. He had more sacks in 1 year than he had in his entire career. Josh Sweat has been a solid player, 3-down defensive lineman, can pass rush. You asked him to play a ton of downs because you really didn't have any depth behind him to help him. Milton Williams is better than Davis. He just needs a full season of playing. Milton could be a 10-sack guy. I like the player a lot. I really do. I like the player a lot. And you got Nolan Smith. So get this. You got Nolan Smith and Nakobe Dean in your starting lineup because Howie Roseman drafted him. Not because a coach put him there. This is Howie's depth chart. This is not Nick Sirianni's depth chart. I mean, Jesus, criminy. It's a personnel depth chart. It's garbage linebackers. Still. Now here, what's interesting, left cornerback. They got Quinnon Mitchell in that number 1 already over James Bradbury. Could he be a June 1 cut and they're going to eat the cap money? Okay. You got Gardner Johnson and Cooper DeJean. I think that's the position that he could play. I'd like him in that. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't mind putting him in at free safety. He's, is he better than Reed Blankenship? Reed Blankenship's a decent player. Some days I like him, some days I don't. He's hit and miss, turned around in pass coverage. He's, some matchups he's good, some he's terrible. I don't know. I'd look at him and go, Reed Blankenship's a dude. Do I want him on my team? Yeah. Richie goes, DeJean is a corner. I think they're going to play him at safety. And I think they're going to put him in that slot safety because of his size. I don't think they're going to play him at corner. Because if you saw him at Iowa, he played both. So I could see him in that slot. Jen, I don't think Blankenship sucks or stinks. He's good. He's average. Terrible. That's kind of how his 3-game, trends go when he plays like that. Now, again, better players around him. Could that help his game? Yeah. Yeah, Isaiah Rodgers will be in the slot. Here we go again. Like Nick, Isaiah Rodgers, how do you know he's a starter? Because why? What gives that away that you think he's a starter? Are you projecting? Okay. I mean, you're projecting on these rookies too. Rookies, secondary, today's passing game, NFL, good luck. Good luck. Top 5 corner for Indy according to PFF in 22. Dude, he played the majority of the time on special teams. He's an undrafted UDFA corner. And now you all of a sudden think that guy's going to play in the secondary and he's going to be a star? Let's see it. Hey, James Bradbury in 2022 made the All-Pro team, guy. And you gave him $14 million a year. Really? Who's better? Isaiah Rodgers or James Bradbury off their 22 season? Calm down. Relax. I'll take Rodgers over Maddox. Yeah, because Rodgers is at least going to be there. What players do you even like, Sills? Well, on defense, I love Carter. Milton Williams. On offense, Lane, Dickerson, Mulata, Devontae. There, I help you out. Sidney Brown says he'll be ready. Sidney Brown's got a long way to go. You're projecting that they would suck. I'm not projecting anything. I'm saying that when you go from a program that doesn't produce anything, what would make you think you're going to produce a thing? Nakobe Dean is Sil's favorite? That's a shame too, man, that he stinks. It's a travesty. Sad for the kid. I really am. Sad for the kid. I don't really like Hurts' skill set that much. AJ's a baller, so if I missed him, I apologize, but Hurts, not for me. That guy's not my style of play. You got to be a quarterback that can throw the ball in today's NFL. There's a reason that 74% of the players were drafted in the first round were offensive players. Quarterbacks, receivers. He's kind of a decent passer. He's not great. Can you compare position groups for each team in this division? We'll do that throughout the week here. Dan is being silly. No. I saw a 1-7 stretch, Roberto, and I saw a quarterback that was second in turnovers. I saw a quarterback that's giving you nothing but 3 different years. That's not silly, dude. That's reality. You know, I listened to so many shows today, even on our own network. I went over and listened to the stuff on our own weekends. It's great to be optimistic, but you got to remember something where I come from. When you walk into an NFL room, you understand that every one of those players that they drafted to replace somebody that's on a current roster. This is with any team. And if you happen to think that all of a sudden there's going to be some love fest between the veterans and these guys that walk in from what other programs you're from, you're out of your mind. Darius Slay saying that he's going to be helpful in helping these guys? Really? So you're going to be helpful in the guy replacing you. You make it sound like you're Brandon Graham. Darius Slay is lying. Last year is the same guy. Get this. Get this. Slay's lying. This comes from the same guy who said this. I played good. Everyone else sucked. That all of a sudden now he's saying, hey, with these new young guys coming in, I'm here to help. Oh, wow. What a change in reality. Oh, you could say that on April 29th, too. Think about that. He goes from saying, you sucked, I'm good, to now he's a helpful warrior now on his team. Come on, man. Come on. Let's talk. Yeah, I'm happy that they drafted two guys. By the way, if you're Darius Slade, they didn't draft one guy. They drafted 2 guys to take my job. They drafted one guy to take Bradbury's job, and they drafted another guy to take my job. Really? You think those 2 guys are happy or sad today? If you're the Eagle locker room right now, are you happy or sad that the 2 top draft picks were cornerbacks? They're probably really happy, Sills. Yeah. Okay. I'm sure they're not. Okay? I'm sure they're not. Roland goes like this. Now Roland's starting to think like Big Sills a little. I don't care how Bradbury feels. Neither do I. I don't care how Trotter Jr. thinks. I don't care how anybody thinks. This is about winning ball games, proving your football team, and winning games. I get paid too, like the GM gets paid. This is a cutthroat league. I'm sorry to tell you this. I'm not a cheerleader. I'm just a guy talking here that's been through this evaluation. And it's not friendly. Like I said, I wanted to separate that by going like this. The Trotter story is great. So they're all wrong? Anthony, did you see that right there, what Anthony just did? What did I say about your draft? What did you miss about your draft that What did you miss? First 2 picks in the draft, you got quality kids here, and you got value picks. Was he the best player at 22? Absolutely, Quinnon Mitchell. Was Cooper DeJean at 40? Absolutely. The Jalyx Hunter thing, I have no idea what that thing is. I mean, I have no idea. The Will Shipley, I'm okay. But to Xander's point, can the quarterback find him? Shit, he couldn't find a third wide receiver in the offense last year. Only 36 pass catchers. Only 36 receptions out of the number 3 hole. You think you're going to find a running back like Barkley and Shipley when you couldn't even find a third wideout last year? And that's probably why you became predictable and you had a 1-7 stretch? Give me a break. He's not that good a quarterback. The kid Smith, you guys talked me into it, looking into him more on his versatility. He's got a little Debo in him, okay? And the Trotter pick is not a shitty pick. You know, I'll tell you what really, between this, what elevated it from a C+ to me to a B- was Shipley and Smith. First 2 picks are good picks. What did you miss? Why do people think players mentor others? They expect them to learn by watching and answering a few questions. They're not coaches and don't want to be. Correct. Now, I'll tell you one thing you do, James. If a younger player asks you a question and the veteran player traditionally will answer, he'll go, yeah, you put your head on the front side. I'll give you a great, and I say this to you with great respect for Ed Too Tall Jones. I asked Ed on a particular technique. Ed's was established. He played 18 years. I mean, Ed Too Tall Jones' legacy will be carved in stone forever. So when you ask a guy like that, or you ask Leroy Selman a question, they're going to answer you because their legacies are set. And you ask a guy, hey, do you put your hand inside here? Or do you try to line up a little wider to give yourself more space to move his feet? Stuff like that, little tricks. Okay? Who's Nakobe Dean? No doubt. You still got him in the starting lineup. Yeah, I said answering questions, but they don't teach their replacements. Yeah, like that, James. That's probably James. If the kid's smart, he will ask a question. Okay? Every time we throw Quez Watkins, he dropped the ball. Well, you only had 36 catches there. What nonsense? What nonsense are you talking about on April 29th about these draft picks? What, that they're all pros? I missed it. Remember what I said. Here is the win for the Eagle draft. They address needs. They got best player available at pretty much all the picks except the 3rd round. I'm not sure what else you want me to say. What else do you want me to say on April 29th before they get their helmets? Dan was wrong about Mitchell? How could I be wrong about Mitchell on April 29th? How in the world, just to show you how idiotic Christopher is, how could I be wrong about anything on April 29th? 2 days after the draft. How in the world? Mitchell was the top cover better than, really? How do you prove that on April 29th on a Monday? Christopher, help me out. Help me out. How are you? And how is he the best corner on April 29th on a Monday, 2 days after the draft? Help me, Christopher. I'm wrong? How am I wrong? I'm awake. Are you? How am I wrong? Gibbs had a better season than Bijan Robinson. Did he not? In Detroit? CJ Stroud had a better season than Bryce Young. Did he not? Bryce Young was the best quarterback drafted. Stroud had the better year. But on April 29th, you're never going to get that from me here. It's April 29th. These men do not own helmets yet. And to sit there and try to sell me A's, B's, and C's when we haven't even seen these guys go through rookie camp or OTAs is insane. But before I bring Mark Farzetta on, Quinnon Mitchell at 22, tremendous value pick. DeJean at 40, absolutely another one. The Jalyx Hunter thing, in my opinion, I don't get it. Off the reservation. The Shipley, I'm good with this. I think he's a cheap man's version of McCaffrey. Now, will the quarterback be able to find him? You guys talked me into the Smith guy. He kind of plays like Debo. The Trotter pick, again, he's an undersized linebacker. I thought he was at fourth or fifth. No, late third, fourth round. They got him into fifth. It's another quality pick. But one thing is for sure, the Eagles still, once again, did not address linebacker. So, however, what they did do in this draft, they addressed all their needs. And on April 29th, Monday, 2 days after the draft, that's all you can go on. Let's bring Farzetta.